Dear listener, close your eyes for a moment and picture this. You are walking through a sunlit garden you once believed was shared. The flowers bloom at your touch. The paths feel familiar and safe. Beside you walks someone whose smile once lit the entire horizon. Their words wrap around you like silk, promises of forever, gentle guidance, unwavering devotion. Yet as days turn to months, the sunlight begins to dim. The paths twist in ways you cannot quite name. The flowers you planted together start to wither under an invisible frost. And when you pause to ask what changed, the very person who tended the garden with you looks back with wide, innocent eyes and whispers, "You're imagining things. It was always like this." This, my friend, is the subtle, devastating artistry of psychological manipulation. Not the blunt hammer of force, but the velvet glove that reshapes reality itself. Psychology has long studied these patterns, revealing how they erode trust, distort perception, and quietly transfer power from one soul to another. Today, we journey together through the veiled landscape of these tactics, drawing on the observations of thinkers who have mapped them across decades of research. We will name them clearly, illustrate their quiet devastation through stories drawn from the human experience, and learn to recognize the recurring patterns that betray their presence. Not as judgment, but as illumination. Because awareness is the first light that pierces any veil. Manipulation in the psychological sense is not mere influence. As researchers have noted since the groundbreaking work of David Buss in 1987 on strategies of human mating and social influence, it is the deliberate use of tactics, charm, coercion, silent withdrawal, and more to elicit or terminate behaviors in others while concealing true intent. Jennifer Freyd, whose betrayal trauma theory opened new doors to understanding hidden harm, showed how such patterns thrive on the very trust we extend to those closest to us. George Simon, in his observations of covert aggression, described manipulators as those who know exactly what they are doing, yet cloak it in layers of plausible deniability. These are not isolated quirks, they are patterned strategies that research consistently links to anxiety, eroded self-trust, and prolonged emotional exhaustion in those exposed to them. Studies across relational psychology, workplace dynamics, and clinical settings have repeatedly highlighted how these tactics operate beneath the surface, often going unnoticed until the cumulative weight becomes crushing. Let us walk slowly now through the most recognized manipulation tactics illuminated by psychological inquiry. With each one, we will pause to see it in action through a human story, understand its mechanism, and note the subtle markers that reveal its presence before the garden fully withers. We will linger on the illustrations, trace the emotional undercurrents, and observe how one tactic often weaves seamlessly into another, creating a tapestry of control that feels almost invisible until viewed from a distance. Begin with gaslighting, the tactic that makes the ground beneath your feet feel like quicksand. Imagine Elena, a dedicated professional whose partner once praised her sharp memory for every detail of their shared life. Over time, he begins denying conversations that happened yesterday. "I never said that. You're remembering it wrong again." He moves her keys and insists she misplaced them. When she grows anxious and points to evidence, he sighs with feigned concern. "You've been so forgetful lately. Maybe you need professional help." Research highlights how this persistent denial of reality creates profound cognitive dissonance, leading those on the receiving end to question their own perceptions, memory, and even sanity. The pattern reveals itself in repeated phrases like, "You're too sensitive," or "That never happened," often delivered with a calm, almost paternal demeanor that makes the target feel irrational and overly emotional. Identification comes when your own recollections consistently clash with the other person's version of events, yet tangible evidence, saved texts, witnesses, or personal notes, supports your memory. The issue here is not occasional forgetfulness on either side. It is a systematic, calculated erosion of your internal compass, leaving you adrift in a sea of doubt where your reality no longer feels reliable. Next appears love bombing, the sudden downpour of affection that floods the senses and overwhelms rational caution. Consider Marcus, newly dating someone who showers him with daily poems, surprise weekend trips, constant compliments, and declarations of soulmate status within mere weeks of meeting. It feels intoxicating, like stepping into a dream where every need is anticipated and fulfilled, until the affection vanishes as quickly as it arrived, replaced by cold distance the moment Marcus sets even a small boundary or expresses a differing opinion. Studies on early relational dynamics and attachment processes show this tactic exploits the brain's dopamine-driven reward system, creating rapid and intense attachment bonds before the true character or intentions have time to surface. The pattern is unmistakable: overwhelming idealization, grand gestures, and future-faking language, followed by abrupt withdrawal or devaluation, often leaving the target anxiously chasing the initial high. You identify it when affection feels performative and conditional, tied more to compliance than to genuine, consistent connection. The hidden issue lies in how it bypasses the natural, gradual pace of trust building, forging a dependency that later becomes a chain difficult to break without significant emotional withdrawal symptoms. Guilt tripping follows closely, wielding conscience as a sharpened weapon. Picture Sophia, who decides to spend a single evening with old friends after weeks of supporting her sibling through a period of hardship. The response arrives laced with sorrowful accusation. "After everything I've sacrificed for you over the years, this is how you choose to repay me." The target complies not from genuine desire, but from a crushing wave of self-blame and obligation. Psychological literature observes this as a form of emotional leverage that weaponizes natural empathy and shared history, often rooted in earlier family or relational scripts where love was conditional on self-sacrifice. The pattern appears in statements that frame normal, healthy boundaries as acts of betrayal. "If you really cared about me, you wouldn't," accompanied by sighs, tears, or prolonged silences that amplify the emotional weight. Identification is possible when you notice recurring pressure to prove your loyalty through repeated self-sacrifice, even at the expense of your own well-being. The deeper issue emerges as quiet resentment builds silently within, because the manipulator rarely acknowledges the one-sided emotional ledger they have created. Triangulation introduces a third party, real, imagined, or fabricated, to fracture alliances and sow division. Watch as Lena's colleague praises her work enthusiastically to others in the office, while subtly telling Lena's supervisor that she seems overwhelmed lately and might need extra support. The third voice creates doubt, competition, and isolation. Research on family systems, workplace dynamics, and emotional triangulation reveals how this tactic disperses responsibility and isolates the target from direct communication. The pattern shows in gossip disguised as concern, or casual comparisons that pit people against one another. "Your sister always handled this so well." You spot it when private matters suddenly involve outsiders whose opinions conveniently align with the manipulator's goals. The issue lies in the erosion of open, direct dialogue, turning once solid relationships into battlegrounds where the manipulator remains the unseen general, directing the conflict from afar. Passive-aggressive behavior operates in the shadows of indirect hostility, where aggression hides behind a mask of innocence. Jamal receives a reasonable request from his partner and responds with prolonged silence, followed by a sarcastic, "Whatever you want, I guess. Your happiness is all that matters." Tasks are completed late with deliberate inefficiency, leaving the other person frustrated yet unable to pinpoint clear fault. Observations in clinical literature on covert aggression describe this as hostility masked by plausible deniability and feigned forgetfulness. The pattern reveals itself in backhanded compliments like, "That dress looks nice," for someone who doesn't usually dress up, forgotten promises excused with, "I'm just too tired these days," and heavy sighs that convey disapproval without ever stating it outright. Identification occurs when actions consistently contradict stated intentions, creating a chronic atmosphere of confusion and walking on eggshells. The hidden toll is the slow accumulation of unspoken resentment that never finds clean resolution or honest discussion. Projection casts one's own unacceptable flaws or impulses directly onto the other person. A partner struggling with chronic jealousy accuses their significant other of being possessive and controlling, detailing suspicions and behaviors that mirror their own actions exactly. As observers have long noted in studies of defense mechanisms, this tactic deflects personal accountability while simultaneously destabilizing the target's sense of self and reality. The pattern appears when accusations feel eerily familiar, as if the speaker is reading from a script of their own inner struggles. You recognize it by pausing to ask whose emotions and behaviors are truly being described in the moment. The issue surfaces as the target begins internalizing false labels and carrying shame that rightfully belongs elsewhere, leading to diminished self-worth over time. Lying and outright denial form the foundational bedrock upon which many other strategies are built. Simple falsehoods, "I never promised that," or "You never told me about that appointment," accumulate until the very concept of truth feels negotiable and slippery. Coupled with feigned innocence or surprise, this creates a dense fog where confrontation dissolves into circular arguments. Psychological studies on deception within close relationships highlight how repeated denial trains the target to stop questioning or documenting facts altogether. The pattern is visible in inconsistencies that multiply over time, small at first, but growing bolder. Identification comes through quietly tracking facts against claims, noticing how evidence is dismissed with calm certainty or even counter-accusations of paranoia. The deeper problem is the gradual surrender of one's own evidentiary standards and trust in personal judgment. Playing the victim reverses roles with masterful precision and emotional theater. When confronted with a specific harm, the manipulator sighs deeply and says, "You always make me feel like the bad guy here, after all I've been through," shifting the entire focus onto their own alleged suffering. Research on defensive interpersonal patterns shows how this elicits sympathy, guilt, and even apologies from the actual harmed party. The pattern emerges in sudden tears, withdrawal, or stories of past trauma that conveniently surface during moments of accountability. You identify it when every conflict, no matter how minor, ends with the other person positioned as the wounded, misunderstood victim. The issue lies in how genuine empathy, the very quality that makes connection beautiful, becomes the precise tool that silences legitimate concerns and perpetuates the imbalance. Intermittent reinforcement keeps the target emotionally hooked through unpredictable cycles of reward and withdrawal. Affection and kindness flow generously one day, only to vanish the next, returning stronger after a period of distance or conflict. Behavioral psychology has long documented this as the same reinforcement schedule that makes gambling and other addictive behaviors so compelling. Uncertain payoffs create far more powerful craving than consistent ones. The pattern shows in hot and cold dynamics, idealization followed by sudden devaluation. Identification occurs when you notice yourself anxiously awaiting the return of the good version, rationalizing the bad as temporary. The hidden danger is the formation of a powerful trauma bond that makes departure feel almost impossible, even when logic screams otherwise. DARVO, deny, attack, reverse victim and offender, stands as one of the most sophisticated and layered combinations, first clearly articulated by Jennifer Freyd in 1997. When confronted with evidence of harm, the person first denies the act ever occurred, then attacks the accuser's character or motives, and finally claims victim status themselves. Studies examining this pattern in contexts of abuse and high-conflict situations reveal how it effectively discredits the target both privately and to outsiders. The pattern unfolds in rapid, almost scripted sequence during any attempt at accountability. That never happened, and you're crazy for even thinking it. Actually, you're the one who has always hurt me. Identification is clearest when your valid concern is met not with reflection, but with counter-accusation followed immediately by self-pity or appeals for comfort. The profound issue is how it weaponizes public perception, social alliances, and the target's own compassion against them, often leaving the harmed party isolated and doubting their own narrative. The silent treatment deploys absence and emotional withdrawal as a form of punishment and control. After any disagreement or boundary setting, communication suddenly ceases entirely, leaving the other person in a prolonged state of anxious limbo and self-doubt. Literature on relational aggression and emotional abuse notes this as a particularly potent form of control, achieved through uncertainty and isolation. The pattern appears in sudden, unexplained withdrawal without any discussion or resolution, often followed by normalcy as if nothing occurred. You spot it when silence becomes the default response to any assertion of needs or disagreement. The toll accumulates as self-doubt fills the void. What did I do wrong this time? A question that slowly undermines self-trust. Flattery and ingratiation pave the way with insincere praise and targeted validation. You're the only one who truly understands me and sees my potential, delivered precisely before a request that benefits the speaker disproportionately. Research distinguishes this from genuine compliments by the hidden expectation of reciprocity or compliance. The pattern reveals itself when praise clusters suspiciously around moments when compliance or favors are needed. Identification comes by noting whether admiration and warmth persist even when no immediate gain is at stake. The issue emerges when personal boundaries weaken under the warm glow of carefully targeted validation, leading to gradual overinvestment. Moving the goalposts ensures perpetual dissatisfaction and exhaustion. Initial promises or standards are met with effort, yet the criteria shift immediately. Yes, that was good, but now I really need more to feel secure. This tactic, observed repeatedly in studies of coercive control and high-conflict personalities, exhausts the target's energy and motivation. The pattern appears in ever-changing criteria for approval, appreciation, or success. You recognize it when genuine effort and achievement are never fully acknowledged or celebrated. The deeper harm lies in the gradual erosion of self-efficacy. One begins to believe that no amount of effort will ever be quite enough. Emotional blackmail adds an element of threat to the emotional mix. If you leave or set that boundary, I don't know what I'll do. I might not be able to handle it. Isolation tactics follow, deliberately severing external support networks so the manipulator becomes the sole source of validation and information. Smear campaigns extend the reach outward, preemptively damaging the target's reputation among friends, family, or colleagues with carefully crafted narratives. Mirroring mimics the target's personality, interests, and values to create an intoxicating illusion of soul-level connection. Each tactic, though distinct in its mechanism, often interweaves into larger, more complex patterns that reinforce one another. Future faking extends the illusion of change or commitment without ever delivering. Once we get through this busy season, everything will be different, I promise. The promise keeps the target invested while the behavior remains unchanged. Hoovering pulls the target back in after separation with sudden apologies, gifts, or nostalgia. I can't live without you. Stonewalling shuts down all communication during conflict, refusing to engage or even acknowledge the other person's presence. Minimization downplays harm. It was just a joke. You're overreacting. Intellectual bullying uses superior knowledge or jargon to make the target feel stupid or unqualified to question. Now that we have named these veils and lingered on their individual mechanisms, let us step back and examine how they form recognizable constellations and recurring cycles across time. Psychological research consistently shows that manipulation rarely appears as a single, isolated act. Instead, it reveals itself in repetition, escalation, and strategic layering. Watch for the classic cycle. Initial idealization through love bombing and flattery gives way to devaluation via criticism, projection, or moving goalposts. Any attempt at confrontation triggers DARVO or gaslighting, while withdrawal invites the silent treatment or intermittent reinforcement to pull the target back in. These patterns emerge not only in romantic relationships, but across workplaces, families, friendships, and even institutional settings where power imbalances allow covert control to flourish unchecked. The brain's neurochemical response to intermittent reinforcement, combined with the cognitive dissonance created by gaslighting and denial, can create powerful neurological loops that make escape feel far more difficult than endurance. Yet the very consistency of these markers, across months or years, becomes the clearest map to freedom once we choose to follow it. Listener, breathe with me here for a moment. Do any of these detailed illustrations stir a quiet resonance, not only in the lives of others you may have observed, but perhaps in fleeting glimpses of your own past experiences? That resonance is not coincidence. It is the psyche's ancient protective alarm system signaling a fundamental misalignment between words and actions. The patterns themselves do not define the target's worth or intelligence. They simply illuminate the manipulator's chosen strategy. By naming them clearly, gaslighting's slow erosion of reality, love bombing's intoxicating flood, guilt-tripping's heavy emotional weight, triangulation's divisive whispers, and all the others that follow, we reclaim the power of clear sight and agency. Awareness alone begins the unmasking process, but it deepens when paired with gentle self-observation over time. Notice when words and actions diverge consistently across weeks or months. Track how conflicts tend to resolve, toward mutual understanding and growth, or toward your eventual apology for their behavior. Feel the subtle energy exchange after each interaction. Does it leave you feeling expanded, respected, and clear, or quietly diminished, confused, and self-doubting? When these patterns persist despite clear, repeated communication of needs, the core issue is rarely simple misunderstanding. It is often intentional design. The human story across history and cultures is filled with those who walked these veiled paths for far too long and eventually emerged clearer, stronger, and more discerning. Their courage did not begin with confrontation or dramatic escape. It began with a quiet moment of recognition. The instant they saw that the garden was not dying by random accident, but by a calculated, repeated frost. You hold that same capacity for recognition right now, in this very listening. We have traveled far together through the intricate veils of deception, naming each tactic with a precision that decades of psychological observation have provided, illustrating their quiet yet profound devastation through lived human stories, and tracing the larger patterns that betray their presence across time and context. From gaslighting's insidious doubt to DARVO's sophisticated role reversal, from intermittent reinforcement's addictive pull to the isolating chill of the silent treatment, these strategies have been mapped by careful observers who sought to understand the darker currents of human interaction. Yet here is the quiet truth that rises above every tactic and every illustration. Manipulation thrives only in darkness and unexamined assumption. Bring it steadily into the light of sustained awareness, consistent documentation, and trusted external perspectives, and its power begins to dissolve like mist under morning sun. You deserve relationships, romantic, professional, familial, where influence flows mutually and respectfully, where honesty forms the solid ground beneath your feet, and where your perception and reality are honored rather than systematically undermined. The next time you sense that subtle shift, the too perfect praise that arrives just before a request, the sudden unexplained silence after a boundary, the guilt that feels heavier than any reasonable ask, pause. Name what you see using the language we have explored together. Trust the recurring patterns your own lived experience and careful observation reveal. In doing so, you do not merely protect yourself from future harm. You model the clarity, integrity, and self-respect that the world so desperately needs more of. Thank you for walking this path of careful illumination with me. May your vision remain sharp and unclouded. May your steps stay grounded in your own truth. And may you always remember, the most powerful and lasting response to any veil of deception is the steady, unwavering light of your own informed and compassionate awareness. Until our paths cross again in another story, see clearly, walk free.